Okay, cool. Hello, everyone. I am Bryanda Notes here with the 2017 Miss US International Chanel James of Baltimore, Maryland. Chanel is actually one of few African American women to ever hold this title, so it's really phenomenal. I'm excited to be speaking with you today. How are you, Chanel?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, so on Intellectual Chocolate, we always bring on intelligent or brilliant Black people who are really doing something phenomenal in the community. And in your case, you have an extensive resume. You are, traveling the country and even traveling the world, with your new title. And even before that, you were doing a lot of things in your community. So I'm excited to talk to you about that. If anyone wants to be interviewed on Intellectual Chocolate, you can go to intellectualchocolate.com and register to be interviewed there. So, Miss Chanel, first, you're so beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. So are you.
Thank you. The first thing that I want to ask you is, how was the road to becoming Miss US International, and how long have you been crowned
Mhm.
so far?
Well, actually, I was crowned Miss US International June of last year. So I'm at about the halfway mark. I have 6 more months to go. And the road, it was a long road. I was contacted by the director of my state, her name is Sable, to compete and represent Maryland and or the East Coast in the pageants. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it. I wasn't sure if it was really the right system for me or what, like the right path. So I prayed on it and I ended up just kind of going for it. And it took, as with any pageant, as with preparing for a lot of different things, it took a lot of preparation physically, dieting and exercising extensively, doing it the right way, the healthy way, not starving myself, but making sure just changing my lifestyle to eat healthier and be a better person. Understanding who I am, so I had the right opinions, knew how to express myself when these questions came, when people were interviewing me, asking me questions, as with now. Just understanding what my perspective was, so that when I were to go on stage or when I were to put myself in front of people, I would be able to speak clearly and eloquently on my opinions and not offend anybody, but just make sure I'm clearly understood, and just understanding how I want to be presented. So people always think it is just glamour and beauty and you're getting on stage in a swimsuit and stuff like that. But yes, there is those parts, but it's really about understanding, well, how do I want to look? Do I want to look sexy? Do I want people to think, oh my gosh, she's really sexy? Or do I want people, oh my gosh, she looks regal? Oh my gosh, she looks elegant. All of these things are being put together when you are creating your image on stage. So everything that you're doing from the moment you step into the pageant world is building your brand, honestly, and creating the image of who you want to be. If you want to be that sex symbol, then everything you're going to do is going to be sexy. If you want to be the eloquent one, then you will make sure that you're well put together. You're going to pick the dresses that represent that. So it really is about just finding you, and that journey has been amazing, and I'm just really enjoying it.
Well, especially love what you said about not really upsetting anyone, because I think that is important. How did you feel, while you were on stage and so on and throughout the pageant? Did you ever sense any nervousness or feel like someone may not be agreeing with what you were saying?
Well, you never know what somebody's opinions are, and you never know how somebody's going to feel. But the point of it is to say how you feel. A judge should never judge you on, oh, they think the opposite of me, so no, I'm not going to pick her. The judge should say, well, she stated her opinion clearly and she gave a good reason and she was able to stand behind it. So I support her and I feel like she can represent us well. And so I've always made sure to be kind of diplomatic, and there are a lot of controversial topics going on.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Exactly. And so you have to learn how to say, okay, well, you may support this, but I don't. I'm not saying that you're wrong, and I'm not saying that I'm wrong either, but this is how I feel. This is my experience. And I hope that you can understand my perspective, and I'll try and understand yours if you'd like to share.
That's powerful. And also the self-representation piece from, everything that you put on and how you present yourself, how you even speak, that's definitely important. And it's important for how the world sees you, how the world wants to do business with you, how the world addresses you, how serious the world takes you.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things are extremely important. So I wanted to know, what was the pageant like? What was Miss US International like when you were waiting on stage and you're like, is it gonna be me? Is it gonna be me?
Oh, yes. So it was actually a week-long pageant in Florida, in Orlando, Florida. And there were so many different girls from different areas. There were people that had many degrees. There were people that were offered shows on HGTV. I'm actually thinking of the girls that I've competed against. And there were so many different people, and you just really had no idea what they would want. These judges could go however they wanted to that day. And so it was just, honestly, I've mentioned it before, and I was just like, when I got on that stage, and this is the way every pageant girl needs to be, every person, quite honestly, when I got on that stage in front of those people, I was like, none of these girls are better than me. And it's not even a cocky thing. It's just like, no, they may be amazing, but they can't be me. And that was the power that I had. And people actually came up and they were like, you look like you were having fun on stage. You look like you were just enjoying your time.
You owned it.
Exactly. And so that was it. It was just like, okay, well, they had their time. They're lovely girls, but this is it. Like, now you guys are ready.
It's my time.
I really enjoyed it. Like, a lot of times you'll think there's a lot of cattiness, and I may have heard in the past that there had been, in previous years, there had been cattiness maybe, but my year, the girls were all amazing. They were also excited for me. I still am in contact with them now. I just went to lunch with one of my sister queens this past week. And so it was so supportive. It was actually surprising and refreshing just to feel the sisterhood and the bond that was built.
Yeah, sisterhood is always important. So what has changed about your life since you've been crowned?
Well, I feel like I have been able to shed light on issues that matter to me on a greater scale. Like, as you mentioned, I have been working with a lot of different organizations, even prior to pageantry, and just being able to bring greater awareness to those organizations, have a greater impact is just it's really empowering. And I'm honored to have the opportunity to be able to meet all these people. It kind of gave me a seat at the table. It gives you the opportunity to meet those different people that can really catapult you to where you're trying to go.
So how have you integrated both your business marketing degree and membership in DECA into your primary objectives as Miss US International?
Well, yes. So in high school, I was in a club called DECA, Distributive Education Club of America. It is essentially like a marketing club. They do a lot of case studies on situations with businesses and how's the best way to answer or find a resolution for this business. And it's interesting because a lot of different things in my life kind of impacted me and enabled me to come up with what my platform is and what my initiative is. I actually have an initiative called the #Goals Program or Project. And it is an initiative to speak to youth. And I try to allow them to see just how limitless the world is. They are able to create their future. You don't have to just follow the path that people are putting on you. A lot of times I've worked in teaching and in education in the inner cities. And a lot of times you'll ask somebody, what do you want to be? Oh, I want to be a teacher, or I want to be a lawyer or a doctor. It's not necessarily because they really want to do that. It's because, all I see is teachers. The only positive image I see is a teacher. Or I want to be a bus driver because my mom's a bus driver and my grandmother was a bus driver. And there's nothing wrong with those careers, but I want to make sure that they're not limiting themselves. And so it's like, I love to draw, but I've never seen somebody have a successful career in drawing. And my mom always tells me to be realistic. But do you know that there's illustration jobs out there? There's so much that you can do. You can make comic books. There's so many different paths that you have that can incorporate your passions and your hobbies. You don't have to limit yourself to the traditional path. And so I've been interviewing people. It was interesting with DECA, it kind of inspired, and DECA was the reason why I'm on the path I'm on now. So doing DECA, I was in marketing and I was like, I'm actually pretty good at this. I was winning competitions. And so it opened my mind to what the marketing industry had, beyond just being a business professional or a business major. I was like, okay, I can be a fashion buyer. Never heard of that. Or, there's so many things I could do in marketing that I decided to major in it, and I am where I am today. So with somebody in this program, I'm trying to show them, I'm interviewing people. I have a friend, she is in urban agriculture. And this is exactly somebody living in Silver Spring, Maryland, and she deals with farms every day. There's some people in the inner city may have never even been to a farm. And if they get exposed to that opportunity, then they may fall in love. And so that's the purpose of my program. And I feel like it's just amazing how all the events in my life have worked together to bring me to this point and bring me to this initiative.
Nice. And I think that is a great point. Every step that we take is so vital and it has such an impact on our futures. So that brings up the importance of media, the importance of, again, the positive images and that self-portrayal of not only am I representing myself, but I am representing myself from a standpoint that could impact the lives of millions potentially.
Mm-hmm.
When people see me, they could see their next opportunity. They could see, their next point of being, literally. So speaking of business, what does your current role as customer relationship manager with IBM entail? Because you work with the U.S. Department of Defense at the Pentagon.
Yes.
So currently,
and I
was going to say, what types of problems are you solving in that position?
So I've been at the Pentagon for about a year now. And it's about as marketing as you can get, really, with IBM in like the tech world. But I am a customer account manager. So I'm not the person fixing anything, but I am the person that builds relationships. So I have the agencies within the Pentagon are my customers. So the various agencies will come to me if they have an issue, saying, I'm not the techie that's fixing it, but I'm the one they're like, I put something in 3 weeks ago and the issue's still not there. Can you help me? Or I'm not happy. I need a solution for this issue. I need some software. I need some hardware. I'm the one that's basically making sure that these agencies are happy and receiving the service that they want. So it's a lot of relationship building. It's a lot of just taking the complaints and making sure that to find the resolution for them. And so honestly, again, it translates well with marketing. It translates well with what I've done because you have to be able to think on your feet. With pageantry, you have to be able to think on your feet when you have an angry customer coming at you and you're like, I didn't do it. I'm just the messenger, but I understand your frustration. So it's actually a lot of fun. I enjoy meeting and talking to people. So having my customers being able to contact me whenever they want is always fun.
So what is the primary objective that you're marketing? I mean, obviously is success, but what is the most common piece of information that you deliver to the people that you're servicing?
So a lot of times it is situations where I am trying to find the best solution for them. So it is, we have an issue with this technical problem. So my job is to be able to find the products and have a better understanding of what their needs are. So it's more of the customer focus, the research background side, not just like the sales side of things.
Right.
So understanding your customer's perspective and understanding the user experience and what their needs are, what the actual requirement is. And so I will talk to them and ask them questions and say, okay, well, based on what you're telling me, I feel like the best solution for your problem is this, or they may have an idea and I'm like, okay, well, do you actually need 500 iPhone 10s or do you just need a phone? It's like, what is your actual requirement? I'm the one that's kind of there to level set them and make sure they're getting what they need, and not just getting what they want because, this is the Pentagon. So money, you have to make sure you're not just spending the money however you want to. You have to make sure that it's secure and you have to make sure that it is in the best interest of everybody involved. So I'm that person just kind of to keep everybody happy, that middleman.
So it seems like you do a lot of communicating, definitely. And yeah, that's probably how I would describe it best. It's just like that communication piece and that glue. So that's cool. So since President Trump was sworn into office, what has the most popular international response been?
Well, it's very interesting. While I was in Japan, President Trump visited Tokyo as well.
Wow.
Yes. And so many of the people I interacted with, they were like, "Oh, he's here, he's coming," or it would just be like, "Oh, Trump," like, "Oh," like, you know, it's like, "Oh,
yeah."
and so I had to come up with, again, my response of how that was. And so people were like, "Oh, did you vote for him?" Or "How do you feel about Trump?" Or that type of thing. And so honestly, I would always just say, well, I personally did not vote for President Trump, but I'm a respecter of the process and I'm a respecter of the role. And so I will also respect my role in the political process and ensuring that my rights are met and I am able to uphold the standard that he should have. And so he's going to do his role and I'm going to do my part as a citizen to make sure that he's working for me and working for the people, as his role should be. And people were very understanding of that when I was able to be rather political.
Yeah, that's very clear. That's
exactly.
very clear.
You can be honest and say you didn't vote for them. There's nothing wrong with saying that. But it's if you start getting too deep into waters, like it's really
no
not
need, really. Yeah.
But it's just, and a lot of times, regardless of whether you like him or not, it was just like, okay, I can understand that. And yes, I'm respecting his role. I'm respecting the process of who he is. And so I hope he does his job, and I'm going to do my job in voting. I'm going to do my job in trying to make sure I am aware of the political issues and being up to date and building a relationship with my local government to make sure they're doing their job, and so everybody working together is the mission.
And adding that accountability piece into it as well. So internationally, how are Americans being perceived, and do you ever hear mentions of that in the Pentagon? Does that ever affect your work with IBM?
It's interesting. Internationally, the things I heard most commonly, for one, because it was a competition, you'd always hear like USA, like they didn't speak English, but they knew to come up to like USA. I was like, oh, okay, sure. But they have I feel like they have the Japanese in general are very understanding and welcoming people. And I really enjoyed that about them. And so they didn't seem to have any kind of prejudice, or not necessarily negative, but just prejudice in any way. They didn't seem to have any judgment against Americans. They seem to be very well aware of Western culture and appreciative of Western culture. And so I felt like very, very at home, honestly. Sometimes when I was in Tokyo, it reminded me a lot of like New York or Chicago, to be perfectly honest, just in the city format. And so the American image, I would say, at least from my experience while I was in Japan, was what you would kind of expect. Sometimes they're like, oh, you guys are a little bit more aggressive than we are, a little bit more, not as demure, not as timid, but it wasn't necessarily seen as a bad thing. It was just seen as more of a difference, just a cultural difference.
That makes sense. So, I don't know if you are familiar with this, but which countries have the most love and most hatred for the president, and what types of comments have been made, or have any comments been made?
In my experience, it was more so, I actually tried to think on which countries there were, and you would look at maybe like, oh, what did Norway have to say? Basically, Norway was really, really nice, actually, but she didn't really. I think people a lot of times tried to kind of steer clear of politics. Every time, because he was visiting, every time Trump's name, I got like the crowd like turning.
Yeah, what is she gonna say? She's from America.
Exactly. But it was more so just. It was interesting. I talked to Miss Canada. I talked to Miss like UK and Ukraine, and they were just like, oh, well, you think you have it bad, or you think you have it this way, and they began to share their own issues and their own circumstances. But the interesting thing, it also opened the door to conversations on just the issues. I remember actually talking to UK, and again, I was one of a few people of color, and so talking to UK, who was a white woman, very nice, but white woman, and she was just talking, and she didn't understand some of the issues or some of the concerns that she had heard from internet, or however she had come across this information. And so to actually have Trump be the window to talking about that, it was interesting. So I began to share with her just kind of the Black experience that may not always be taught to international relations. And so, or the minority experience that isn't what the media says, or what fake news really means, or, these type of things. And so just having that opportunity to speak to these people and share the non-majority perspective was very helpful. And I felt like they really were open to listening and learning. And so after having some conversations and just saying, well, here's what actually happened, here's the actual history behind why people feel this way or why people are upset. And after explaining that, it was very understandable. And they didn't like say, oh, I'm changing my mind, or here's how I feel now. But they said, oh, I completely understand why somebody would feel that way. And so I really used whatever opinions, whatever opportunity I could about Trump or about politics to, let's have a discussion. Let's talk about it. Like, let me share, let me enlighten you.
Yeah. So, and you brought up a good point about like fake news and the stories that aren't being reported. So the narratives that actually aren't being heard and haven't been heard on a regular basis for some time now. So I think that is a really striking point. So speaking of U.S. relations, how does that impact the global economy, especially with Trump in office? And how was this reflected in Japan?
Oh, absolutely. So a major part of our time in Japan was speaking to Japanese businesses and just having the opportunity to interact with these government officials and business owners of both larger and smaller businesses. And they were worried, of course, with some of the trade agreements that may be affected, or, just talks of things that had happened. And people, of course, love to come to the United States. People have always, it's a dream of people's to come to the United States. So it was very interesting to hear the perspective and the kind of concern that people had with what might happen. Even though Japan isn't necessarily something that's one of the main countries that are talked about, they might have a subsequent effect, from whatever other policies or, unforeseen issues may occur. And additionally, there was a talk of tourism. Tourism was a major reason. I am an official tourism ambassador now of Japan. And so it is a major pull. They want USA. They want people from USA to come and visit Japan, and to have the potential of the economy in the US dwindling and people not being able to travel as much and not being able to save to go to places as far as Japan. It was very worrisome for them. And so our economy affects their economy because they look to us. They actually have, like I said before, they have very westernized ways. They love baseball. I was asked several times about baseball, and I was like, I'm so sorry, I don't watch.
I actually like baseball, so
I watch it. I can go to a game, but to actually say like, oh, who's your favorite player?
Oh, see, no, I cannot do that portion of it. But I will say that going to Japan would be nice, and I'm definitely...
Exactly. So people would love to have you there, but they also understand that if jobs are down, if the economy in the U.S. is down, then they can't expect the same amount of tourism.
Travel, yeah.
Japan is a very expensive place to get to. It's a 13 to 18-hour flight, depending on how far you go.
Wow.
And so they understand that if our economy is not at its best and in the best interest of all of the people, then they are definitely affected. So it was interesting to hear those perspectives.
So just in general, and I think you already answered this before, but what is the overall attitude towards Americans in Japan?
They love Americans, quite honestly. In general, of course, there are cultural differences. They will say, "Oh, you guys are a lot louder. You guys are a lot bolder," because there is and I love it. It's a idea of just mindfulness of others in Japan, that you don't necessarily see. Just understanding that other people are there. Think of others before you think of yourselves, or something like that. Just it's it's called omotenashi, is I believe, if I got that right.
Like a high level of morale.
Yes, just it's the hospitality. So there's so many things that are just there that you would not see in the United States. Like we would drive past so many times and see just bikes unchained, unlocked, just sitting there, and they were like, "Oh, yeah, we have no reason to chain our bikes. Why would we?" And I was just thinking, I'm like, there's nowhere in the United States that I would really recommend somebody just leaving their bike on, and this is a city street. And I was like, yeah, people, or walking down the street at a restaurant, there was the outside seating, and each table had blankets, and each table had like just nobody was sitting there. Looked like the restaurant was closed, but they left the blankets out, they left the chairs down. I'm like, nobody's gonna take those? Like,
yeah, I was like, are they there for someone?
Exactly. Like, is something happening? And they're like, oh no, it's just when they open, they know it's gonna be windy, it's gonna be cold outside, so they have blankets for them. And nobody takes them because they know it's not theirs. They know they have the understanding that they don't need to do that. And when I told them, wow, in the United States, that's definitely not the case, it's interesting because the first thing that many people said was, oh man, they must really need it, or they must not have it. So they went to, oh, they're poor, let's help them. As opposed to, I feel like the mindset in the United States would be like, oh, that's a shame, we need to punish. And so it was so interesting to hear that, like, oh, they had the mindset of, oh, they need something, they need our help so that they don't have to want our bikes. Let's give them a bike, or, let's make sure that their needs are met. And we have I feel like the mindset of it's a criminal, or not everybody, but societally speaking, our system is set up to view that person that might be taking that thing as a criminal, instead of seeing why they're taking the bike, seeing why they're doing these deemed negative things. And so I really appreciated the difference in mindset, the fact that in Japan, they look to understand the reason behind negative actions as opposed to just punishing.
I think addressing the root cause in anything can definitely be beneficial, because it's like, otherwise everything will continue to be a symptom of, like you said, that why.
Exactly.
So were you excited about venturing to Japan?
Oh, absolutely. I had never been that far from the United States. And I definitely was just really interested in seeing the culture, I've never been to a country where I knew I probably would not see that many people that look like me. And I've never been to a country where it's just the primary language is not English. And so it was, although there were a lot of Japanese that spoke English, it was just interesting to see, like, okay, there's so many different things. I can't read any of the signs. I can't even say what the letters are because these are different. I can't even try and imagine what these letters mean. And so just being in that different culture shock, it was, I feel like it was exciting. It was it was thrilling to be able to challenge myself and see if I could survive in that environment.
A new world kind of thing. And then, they also have those apps now where you can speak into your phone and it'll translate into whatever language.
Yes.
Did you use that while you were there?
I would have loved to use that. Unfortunately, that requires data. And so international charges and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Minimize the use of data while you're there, especially when I was there for 3 weeks. And so to use data every day,
I can imagine.
Yes, it was very minimal. Looking for a lot of Wi-Fi in the area.
Nice. Okay, so tell me about Learn Japan. You saw this sign when you got there.
Yes. So I don't know if you are religious, but I surely am. And so I honestly feel like this entire journey has been just God working in my life. And so like I said, I'd never been to Japan. I was not very familiar with Japanese culture. And so one of the days I was going somewhere I frequent a lot. I was actually going to get a smoothie, and I drove to get the smoothie. I parked, and just behind the Smoothie King, it was a building saying in big letters, "Learn Japan." And I was just like, okay, I go here like once a week. Why have I never seen this before? And so I ended up reaching out to see what it was. And it was actually a woman. Her name is Chika. And her business is to teach people about Japan. So it can be culture, it can be language, it can be etiquette, whatever you want, she would be able to teach you about Japanese culture. And so I reached out to her, and she helped me for about like a month or two, just teaching me basic language, teaching me basic practices, and saying, okay, well, when you, just small things that you may not think about or you may not even realize. So like in Japan, when you go to a restaurant, they will not check on you repeatedly. And so when you're in the United States, they, you know, if the waiter doesn't come and check on you, you're like, oh,
where are they?
They're not getting a tip, or that type of thing. And so to have that, just change that mindset. She lets you know the small things, like, okay, don't expect that. Maybe you should bring napkins because they don't give napkins. It's very small things that she was able to kind of keep me in tune with, so that when I got there, she was so helpful, that when I got there were people asking me like, how did you know to do that, or how did you know to bring that, or
impressive.
Exactly. It was like I was able to translate, like somebody said good luck to somebody. I was like, oh, they just said good luck. And, you know, to be able to understand very minimal, you know, she can go higher level, but it was a short period of time. But she was very helpful. And actually beyond that, she traveled to Japan to be a tour guide for my family. I was very lucky. My mother, my father, and my sister and my family were able to travel to Tokyo and be at the pageant to support me. And so she traveled with them as well, to show them around and be their tour guide, be their translator, and just kind of be that guide for them, that one-on-one guide. And I was so appreciative because, of course, in the same boat I was, they have never been there. And so to have somebody dedicated to them, it was amazing. So learnjapan.com.
Learnjapan.com. All right. And what's her name again?
I think it's Chika Sugiyama.
Chika Sugiyama.
But it's Chika. But it's learnjapan.co. C-O.
Learnjapan.co. Okay, cool. Well, I just want to remind everyone that I am Bryanda Notes, and I am here with Miss Chanel James. She is actually Miss U.S. International 2017. We are honored to have her here today. Thank you so much for coming on. And jumping back to business on a global scale, from a business perspective, which industry is the most deeply rooted in Japanese culture as a whole? And do you feel as though they've had an impact back here on U.S. soil?
Oh, absolutely. It's interesting. I feel like in Japan, they were able to incorporate tradition with modernization very well. So they are very much about minimalism and efficient use of space, because there is, of course, large populations in the area. And so one of our main sponsors in Japan was Panasonic. And so while there, we were able to just kind of see the reasoning behind some of the inventions. And so they would speak on traditions that they had in the culture, which would take you back to farming, in the farming industry or the sake making industry. And you would see that this was really paying homage to their history and their heritage of their love of, or their availability of the crop of rice, and how they were able to use that and appreciate that. And then because of what they have in the farming industry and in the sake industry, it created a need for this, which is what the modernized technology companies are creating. And so it's really, they're not one to try and isolate themselves. They really are incorporating the old with the new and trying to embrace both aspects of what makes Japan great. And so you would see people from the mountains in the country working with the people in the city of Tokyo or in the major cities of Japan. And so it's really amazing to watch.
It sounds like there's a big sense of togetherness and a big sense of reliability. Everyone understands that they play their role and they all have their own individual parts of society. And then it goes back to how societies are even developed in the first place. Once you can sustain, you can branch off into business development. So I think that's really cool. So since Panasonic is a major Japanese company, and you were able to visit, what impact did that have on your life? What impact did all of that experience that you just named impact your life here, working with the Pentagon, or as you are meeting people throughout the US?
Oh yeah, so I definitely was using this opportunity in Japan as like networking. As I said, that seat at the table, I'm trying to make sure it's as many seats.
Exactly.
Interesting, because we went to the headquarters of Panasonic, and you didn't realize how much Panasonic makes. I associate Panasonic with TVs mostly, or just
electronics.
Exactly, entertainment electronics, but they actually create a wide variety of things. So they create beauty products, blow dryers, flat irons, any type of facial products, any type of thing. They actually have a full-on spa in Japan, like a major high-end spa in Japan.
And it's still the Panasonic brand?
Yes, it is the Panasonic brand spa, and it's all of their products are used, all of their it's just a way to highlight their beauty products, and they're really good beauty products, by the way. So
nice.
Yes, and then they have the home office, and they have not just televisions, which of course they have, but they have doors. They sell doors systems. They sell.
That's really random.
Exactly. It's like it was almost like walking into, for lack of better words, like IKEA. How you walk into IKEA and it's like a full kitchen model setup. It was a full Panasonic model. So you could get these Panasonic cabinets. You can get these Panasonic faucet, like sink and lighting in the room and stuff like that. So it's so much bigger than that. And I feel like it was definitely impacting because, as I said, they're very much about efficiency and keeping things smaller in size. And so I know now it's big in the United States with tiny homes and the tiny house movement type thing.
Yeah.
And then just small apartments in general, that people are looking for those efficient ways. And so you'll see a lot of use of kind of the Asian inspired cultures of how they are able to use space efficiently. So you have the smaller kitchens that have the folding and the use of manipulation of furniture that be multi-purpose. Those are all things that are very big and highly recommended and used in Panasonic.
Nice. So you mentioned beauty products. I want to know, which one is your favorite out of all their beauty products?
Yes. So I was enlightened to the beauty of a steamer. When you want to feel extra fancy and get that extra, at home spa experience, I actually bought one myself. I got a steamer, so it really opens your pores. It makes you feel so glamorous. When you're doing the natural hair thing, sometimes you need to like wrap your hair up or whatever. Yeah. But it can be used on your hair too. It's just something that it really helps to the beginning process of cleaning your skin. So if the steam will open your pores and help you to use the rest of the product. So I was really enjoying that. They had so many different styles. I'm a fan.
I would love to use one of those, but
Amazon, that's where I got
Amazon. Okay, so I'm going to look that up. Amazon Panasonic steamer.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of different brands. So I mean, no need to.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yes, but you can.
So did you notice while you were there a lot of homelessness?
It's very interesting. I did not. Again, it was interesting that they have the problem, but it seems like they are a little bit more able to hide it, or maybe they're a little bit more aggressive in hiding their homelessness, or because it's definitely an issue no matter where you go. But in the streets of Tokyo, I did not see it as a thing. And again, I feel like that was partially due to the fact that they are always looking to help somebody and see the need and not just see, oh, you're homeless, you should get a job. which is sometimes the mindset that we have here. It's okay, they need a job. Let me help them to find a job, or they something happened to them that landed them in this situation. Let's find a way to help these people to better themselves and not just kick them when they're down. Let's help them to bring them up. So it was very
that problem solving climate versus like the more I don't want to say, I guess, hardcore capitalist environment.
Mm-hmm.
So in saying that, what is the contrast with how homelessness looks in Baltimore, Maryland, where you are currently living right now, correct?
Yeah, well, I live in the Baltimore, Washington area.
Okay. So kind of in between.
Yes. And I've lived here a majority of my life. And it's interesting. While I was in Japan, they were having a discussion on what they called street children. And it was the children that don't go to school, that live on, basically what the name says, they live on the street and they're trying to survive on their own. Many of the contestants come from what could be deemed as third world countries, or not first world countries. And so the pictures that they were showing looked a lot like those commercials you see on TV, like for 50 cents a day, you could save a child. And so it was interesting. They opened it for discussion, and I got on the mic, and I could tell that a lot of people honestly were wondering what I was going to say, because there is this look at the USA, like, you're the USA, you guys have so much money, you shouldn't have this, or I've never seen images of USA children looking like that. And so it was interesting because I said, okay, well, I understand our pictures may not look like that. They may not be tattered clothes walking down the street, walking down a dirt road or something like that. And that I feel like it's worse in the United States if you say it, because you can't easily pick out the child that looks like that, because there's a child in the US, in Baltimore and in DC, who looks just like that, or not looks just like that, but is in that same situation. They are walking home to and from school by themselves, coming home to nobody in their house. They don't have the support. Their oldest sister or oldest brother is the support system, is the person that helps to make sure the children, the rest of the siblings are doing what they're supposed to do. But because they have a place to go to, they have a home. That home may not have a parent in it, or may not have an active parent, but because they have a home, they're not necessarily clearly addressed as needing help. And so it's our way of masking the issue. And so you will see as I said, in this area, there are, of course, a lot of homelessness. It is always hard to see these families just coming back, returning, or growing and bringing more people. Or not necessarily, like, it's not necessarily homelessness, but needing. You have somewhere to go. Like I mentioned, you have a home to go to, but you don't have food in it, or you don't have the lights, or it's a guess if you're going to be able to be there next month. Will you have to move? Will you have to find somewhere else? So it's so interesting, the dynamic, because this area is a very transitional city. You have a lot of people coming in and out. And so you may think, oh, this family just moved or moved away. And it's like, no, they are trying to keep up and keep the facade of making it, when in reality, they really need help. So when I work with organizations with homelessness, or feeding or providing meals, you're oftentimes giving meals to people who are regulars. You're oftentimes giving meals to people who have a suit on, or, or like have that look of that. I don't think you need.
I guess more like professionalism.
Exactly. Like, are you sure you apply? And they definitely apply. It's just, they also are very good at keeping that front up to try and fake it till they make it.
Appease societies, basically.
Exactly.
So what resources are usually available to the homeless in Baltimore?
Mm-hmm. So for a very long time, I have been working with an organization called Happy Helpers for the Homeless. It was actually started by a woman and her daughter that I went to high school with. The mother was a teacher, I believe, at the high school. And every Saturday and Sunday, rain or shine, they are outside in Baltimore giving donations to this community. And it is amazing. They've been able to find sponsorships. So we're able to find actually the local Panera Breads give their leftover bread. Every day it's supposed to be baked fresh. So these are fresh. Panera Bread is fresh.
So, it is very fresh.
Exactly. So every night they give their bread, whatever bread they have left over, to this organization. And then we have clothing drives regularly. We have just people donating on a regular basis. And so again, we have sandwich making sessions where people can come and just make the sandwiches. And then every Sunday they have them come at a certain time, and they walk kind of like walking around the mall kind of, and just picking up what you need. No judgment. We will help you find clothes that you need. Let me see if there's clothes that fit. And just you can come back, you just get ticket and go and get your stuff. And so it's been in Baltimore. We're trying to maybe expand it and bring it out to different areas, but that's the first one that I actually worked with. Since then, I worked with a lot of different organizations, including #LunchBag. They are national, but I've worked in DC with them. And again, we made sandwiches. We put motivational notes on the bag just to encourage them and just keep them motivated. And then we walked down DC, the streets of DC, as we passed somebody, as we went to a park that is an area where where a lot of homeless and people in need reside. And it would be just passing out the bags. Sometimes you build those rapports with people. Sometimes you're putting them down right here because you know that they're going to come. They're too proud to take it from your hand.
Yeah.
But we know, okay, we're going to sit it right here on this bench, and we know that they're going to come get it later. And so it's an amazing thing to just see the appreciativeness of these people and of just being able to help somebody regularly, and just doing what you can. You may not be able to do a lot, but just doing what you can.
Yeah, well, every little bit, or however much you choose to donate, or your time, your efforts, all of that counts, and compound interest.
Yes.
over time, you're making a huge difference. And even those day-to-day efforts are monumental. So what cities are you planning to go to next?
Well, I've lived in a lot of different areas. I've actually, in college, I had internships in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. I lived in Chicago, Illinois briefly for an internship. I lived in Florida. I want to go as many places as I can. It's everywhere. The issue is everywhere. Rural areas, urban areas, anywhere I can help, I would love to. That's honestly it.
And I saw a picture of you building a house on your website too. Where were you when you were doing that?
Yes, so I was in Northeast DC. It was with Habitats for Humanity. So another amazing organization in DC. You are working with potentially somebody that is going to live in the house. So in order to get this house, the person has to help to build it. And so it was an amazing opportunity. I don't know why I chose hammering, but I did. So I got my arm workout. But it was a lot of fun to just be able to see and meet the families that were impacted. And again, seeing people that were regular volunteers. So they were like, no, I've never gotten a home or received a home, but this is just an awesome opportunity to see my work being put to action. So I helped to build this floor that these people are going to be walking on and living in. And just seeing just the appreciation of having the motto of Habitat for Humanity here is a hand up, not a hand out. So just having that hand up. So be able to say, with giving a home to these people, this oftentimes in DC, it's women that they give it to. They're looking to help women in the impoverished area. So when you look at that, that is helping with human trafficking issues, because these women have somewhere to go to at night. Oftentimes these are single mothers. So this is helping children. There's so many ways to look at the impact of what you're doing that you may not even realize. And so it's just an amazing opportunity to just step outside of yourself, do something that nobody's asking or nobody can repay you for, just showing your appreciation and showing that I've been blessed. Let me bless somebody else.
Yeah, paying it forward. That's really powerful. So what advice or tips would you give to everyone watching who wants to make a difference?
Oh, wow. So honestly, I just try and do what you can. I know there's so much going on in the world. I always say there's so much going on that when you look at it, it can become overwhelming. Like, okay, is what I'm doing, is it really going to matter? I'm just helping and making 10 sandwiches. Is that really going to make a difference to somebody? But it does, you never know what that one small thing that you do, whether it be making a sandwich or whether it be buying somebody that you see and need lunch, like you see somebody on the street, or just doing that small favor for somebody. You never know the impact that they might have. Or when you help somebody, they get inspired and become in a position to then help somebody else. And so because you were there, you're starting that chain reaction of paying it forward. And so it's just, I always say, don't think of the big picture. Just think of today, what can I do? This is what I can do. If it is helping in the most minor way, giving $1 to something, you don't know, they might have been $1 short, to giving $1 to somebody on the train. That helped them get to their destination. That it could have been a job. You don't know, it could have been a job interview. It could have been, and that could have been the only way they got there. But don't ever sell yourself short or try and discredit the effort that you're giving in trying to do something. So just any way possible, just give.
Nice. That's a great tip. And I want to know, where can everyone who is watching find you on social media?
Well, I have a couple different ways. My main page is at Chanel Capri. That is SHANELKAPRI. And on Facebook, it is facebook.com/Miss US International 2017. Look it up. You'll see me.
Yeah, it'll come up. It'll come up, definitely.
Yeah, something like that. But my official Instagram page is at Miss US International.
Miss US International. And then ChanelJames.com.
Yes,
it's also your main website.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. I've enjoyed thoroughly speaking with you, getting your perspective, hearing about your initiatives. I wish you so much luck and prosperity and success. And I'm excited to collaborate with you and speak with you more.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I am honored. I was a fan of Intellectual Chocolate and Dr. Boyce Watkins and everything he's doing. So when I saw the opportunity, I was like, yes, I would love to be on this.
Nice. Well, you're welcome anytime. I want to remind everyone that if you want to be interviewed, go to intellectualchocolate.com where you can apply. I also want to say that you can get this jewelry at globeglam.com. That's globeglam.com. I am Bryanda Notes, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, evening, wherever you all. Keep it classy and keep it intelligent. Thank you so much.